If you have downloaded something from the internet, especially that is an unauthorized or a malicious site or form, and that file looks like this one that have an extension .py, that means that is a Python file, and you don't have to execute that file because you don't know that script or that Python file can give someone's a reverse shell or not. But what is the reverse shell and why you have to care about this thing? In this video, we will be having a look at that, and that's another scary video for our Hack the Day series. So without any further delay, let's get started. Okay, let's see the timestamps of this video. First, we will see what is a shell, and then we will see the types of shells, and then we will see why you have to subscribe this channel and it's very important to you. And then of course the definition of these types, and then we will make a Python program that can create a shell. So first thing first, what is a shell? So you can say that a shell is a tunnel through which your computer can connect with some other computers in the world. So it's a path that through that path we made connections to other computers. So this is the basic definition of a shell. So there are two kinds of shells, a bind shell and a reverse shell. So let's see what are these shells. So in bind shell, what happens, like for example, if someone wants to connect with your computer, of course that person should have to know about the IP address and a specific port number through which your communication would be done. But before starting the actual communication, one of the machine should have to be listening and the other machine should have to send a request to that IP address and the specific port on which the machine is listening. So in this hacking scenario, let's see what is a bind shell. In this shell, attacker starts communicating with the victim machine through a specific IP address and port. But before the communication, the target machine should have an open port that would be specifically listening. That means that the machine on which you are going to attack should be listening on a specific port. For example, you can use 80 port here, any port here that is within the port ranges. And of course, if that our victim machine is listening to us, then that means it's waiting for us to make a connection. So after this one, when the victim machine is listening, then it's the attacker's turn. Attackers then execute a script that would send a request at your victim's machine's IP address and the port this victim machine is listening at. So it looks like this. So this is an attacker's machine. It could be a Kali Linux, a Windows machine also, and any operating system. And this is a victim's machine, the person's computer on which you are going to attack. So what happens, we execute a script on this victim machine so that this machine would start listening on a specific port. I have used a star here as a port number because it can be any port between the port ranges. So after this one, this machine is listening, so we execute a script here that would just send a request to this, and on the same port this victim machine is listening on. So if all these things are working normally, then you would go to a shell, and by that shell you can execute any commands from your attacking environment to this victim environment. That means you can get information about this victim machine, and you can download something from this victim machine to your machine, and you can also upload something, some scripts, some exe files or anything from your PC to these victim machines. So that means this, by using these techniques, this bind shell, you can get remote access to this victim machine a problem that, of course, this person is connected with the internet. That means it should have firewall. This attack was done very easily uh, in some early days, but now whenever firewalls see that someone is contacting with me, especially this kind of communication, firewall blocks that. So that means you are not going to make it a successful attack. It means firewall will block your request. Whether it is listening or not, your request would not be forwarded to this one. That means this is not going to work. So here comes another thing, a reverse shell. This is, of course, its name suggests reverse shell. It's the reverse of the bind shell. That means it is going to do something opposite to the bind shell. So for that, we execute a script here, and after executing that script, this machine would be listening on a specific port. Okay. After that, we execute another script in the victim's machine, and that would send this a request on this port this attacker machine is listening. So again, if all these things are successful, then we will get remote access to this victim's computer, and we can do pretty much anything like we are using it as a normal scenario. And here is another thing, the firewall would not block this connection, because this request is going from this victim to the outward, to the outward of the internet, you can say that. So the firewall will not block that, and that's the main reason we are going to build this reverse shell in Python. So okay, I think you would got basic understanding and enough idea about what we are going to do and what is the theoretical stuff here. So what's next? Next, we will start coding this in Python. I had opened the Visual Studio Code here. So let's close this one and create a new file. And for this one, I would be creating two files, one to execute on the victim machines and one to execute on the attacker's machine. So let's save it. I am saying victim.py. Let's save it as attacker.py. First, we will create the victim script and then we will the attacker script. For communication, we will be using import socket, socket. We will create a socket object here, and let's make a variable like sock object is equals to socket.socket, like that. Let's create some variables like our host name. Let's use host IP is equals to, and let's use here like I am using input, enter attacker's IP address, and let's use this one \t, and one more thing, we will be taking an other port number is equals to int, and then we will use here input. So we will use here enter port number. Perfect. Okay, so we got two things here. What we need now, we will use here sock object dot connect to connect with that person, and we will use here the address, and we will pass here host. The address would be a tuple, so we will use here the host IP comma and the port number. Perfect. Okay, all these things are done. Until now, it's time to create this attackers.py. Let's import socket here again, like that, and let's create a variable sock object is equals to socket.socket, like that. But this time we will not be of course we will be using the port here, and of course we will also need host IP is equals to input enter IP address, like that. Perfect. So the thing here, we will use here sock object dot bind. And what's the reason? Because victim is connecting with us, so we have to bind our connection, and we have to pass it again the address. Again we will use a tuple here, and we will pass here to variables host IP dot port number. Perfect. And one more thing, we will use here sock object dot listen, and let's do it like that. So this would now start listening to this one. So before executing this one, let's copy it, and I'm here at my Kali machine. So let's see what is there. It's empty right now. So I'm going to create nano, and let's use attacker.py, and let's paste it here and save it. Yes, of course I would like to save it, and we can also cat attacker.py, and you can see that it's like that. So we can use here python 3 attacker.py, and we have to of course pass it the IP address. I'm using here 000, and use here port number as 444. Okay, it's listening, but I had run this file, and you can see it just took inputs from us, and it's done there. So let's try to run our another program on our victim's machine on Windows. I'm using this attacker's machine as Kali Linux, and I would be using this attackers.py here. So let's try to run this file. I opened the terminal, and what I will be doing, I will be using python victim.py, and let's use here our IP address. So for this purpose, I would be going here. I would use if config, and there is my IP address 192.168.1.104, 192.1.1.104, and our port number is 123, and let's see. Okay, no connection could be made because the target machine actively refused it. Oh, that means there is something we are missing right now. If you got this connection, then that means connection refused error. Then that means the program or the other machine is not listening at this IP address. So yes, it is the thing that we had just used this one, but the problem is we have to make it listen it continuously. So for that I would be using while true, and here I would be using sock object dot accept, like that. And furthermore I would be using print statement here, listening on here host IP and port number. So let's copy it again, edit this file, paste it here, exit and save. Yes, so if we still cat it, so you would see that we got this here. So let's clear it out and run our file again. So let's use here 0.0.0, like that. Port number is 444. You can see that it is listening on this connection. So let's jump here and run this file again. Our was 192.168.1.104, and port number is this, and you can see that no error here. And let's go back to this. Okay, you can see that it's still listening here. Okay, but one more thing, let's stop this one. We see no error here. Let's stop this one. We will update this script little bit. After accepting this one, let's create another variable like connection. I'm using here got con for the connection. If this is done properly, then we will shout here print got connection, and of course we will print here some let's print this variable sorry, got connection. So let's save it, copy it again, jump back to our Kali machine. Let's rewrite all these things, but this time we are going to run it, and I'm very confident that this time it would work very effectively. So let's go. Our IP address is 0000, and number is 3 times 4, and listening. Okay, perfect. So let's see here, clear it out again and run this file, and let's use a 192 168.1.104 and 123 and okay, good. And you can see that wow, we got connection from this Windows machine. It's family structure here. Okay, we got the protocols here, we got the address here, the again we got this address here, and this thing is working properly. So let's close it, and our reverse shell is going little bit good, is going in the right direction, but we have to do some few adjustments here. Like we are using here while true, we are not going to use this one, we are just going to do this one time. And of course we are getting here some uh, connections, so without so I'm not going to use it like that. We want to see what this code connection contains. So it would, we can see that it would return for IP sockets, the address info is a pair, host address and the port. Return a new socket representing the connection and the address of the client. So this accept method would return a address, a whole address. So this accept method that we had seen here, so object dot accept, would return some things like this address here. One, this address that is used for the communication purposes, and the other thing is that it's the clients, and this contains of course it is a tuple, so we can see that it's here like this one is this item and the other item is this one. So it is the address here and it is the packets details, all these things. So let's save it. So but now we are not going to no, we are going to do it. So what we are going to do, we are now going to use here something like, I'm creating a variable like message is equals to input to get connection, to get something that we will show on the screen of the victim. So let's use here I managed to hack into your system. Okay, like that. Okay, now I'm using here got connection, and I'm using here 0 dot send. You can see that it's, and we can see that here it can accept a lot of methods. So let's use here send, and because we want to send this something, so I'm using here message, and let's save it, and let's go to this one. Of course it should have to get the message. Sock, we will use here sock object dot, there should be something like, yes, this one receive, and we have to pass it a buffer size. So I am using here 1024, and let's save it, and let's store it somewhere in a variable. So I'm using here message is equals to this one, and now we will just print message. Perfect. So let's copy it all. Okay, let's save it like that, and perfect. So let's clear the screen, let's run it again. Our IP address is 0000, and I will tell you why it is 0, and our port address is like that. Okay, it's listening. Let's open the terminal here and run it. Our address is this and port number is this. Okay, this script is waiting for something. I managed to hack into the system. Okay. Oh, something that reverse had happened here. So we can also use here like Kali machine. Let's see that, and we got an error here, and that error is dot send a bytes like object is required, not string. Perfect. And let's see what is here, and you can also see that here it's like this. So that means we have to do little bit adjustments here, and that is dot encode. And I was wondering why I managed to hack into your system there. So I would be using here enter, but for like that we can use here enter text to show, and I would be using it. And of course, let's save it. And one more thing here, we were just getting some B, and you can like that. We were saying there, I can also open the terminal here, and you can see that I was just seeing this here. But I want that we get the text display here, that we are going to pass it here. Okay, so I would be using here dot decode, and just wait for a moment. And I am here again. I would be using nano, and let's say let's modify this server tacker.py file. So yes, and again clear it, and this one, oh sorry, we have to run this file 000 and 444. Perfect, listening. And let's victim.py, our address is this one and this one. Okay, it's waiting for us. Enter text to show. So let's use here your system hacked, and enter. Okay, it's done. No errors here. Oh my god, we are getting this string back here. Your system hacked. Now I am cautious that why we should not have to execute any Python scripts, because if I don't execute this script here, I'm just going to run it again. Okay, so this here, and let's use here. Okay, so what does this 000 means? This 0 means whoever is going to make connection within my network to me. Okay, so that means whoever, if we just specify a specific IP address, then this would just accept that connection from that IP address. But I want that if anyone just going to send me or make a connection with me, I'm available to do that. I would readily made that connection. But here we are passing the exact IP address of that machine, so that we are just going to connect with that specific IP address. And that's the problem. You can see that it is listening here. Nothing is going to happen. It would remain in this listening state forever if someone don't execute this script. If someone does, we have seen that what would happen. I can pass it another thing. Like for example, I'm using wrong IP address right now, and you can see that it's again listening, and we got an error because this machine was not listening. And if we go to our Kali machine, you can see that nothing is happened here. Okay, let me clear it and run it again, and I would pass the same IP address but with different port number. So sorry, I put the slash here. So our IP address is this one, and our port number is different, and you can see that no connection could be made because the target machine actively refused it, because this port was closed at that machine. And you can see that nothing is happening to this one. It is now still listening. But if I just pass there the exact same things like port number and the IP address, okay, let's see, go back to this one, we got a connection. We are right now just showing that we can pass our text to the victim's machine, but in our future videos we are going to create a full meterpreter reverse shell. We are going to create a reverse shell that would work like the meterpreter. The Metasploit's meterpreter. It's not exactly like that, but yes, it would serve little bit like that. So I can use here wait for our new video, and okay, fine, and you can see that we got here wait for our new video. So each and everything is working absolutely perfect, and we will modify these scripts in our future videos to make it a fully functional reverse shell. And of course, these videos are not for the illegal or unethical purposes. If you have executed these scripts, then you don't know what those scripts contain, especially if those are being downloaded from unauthorized, malicious, or unknown sites that you don't have knowledge about, then you can be in trouble. And of course, if you execute that and that contains the reverse shell, then that means you are just giving that other person that, hey, contact with me, I will give you my private files, all these things. And in our future video we will be making that reverse shell, and you would get a better understanding of why these scripts are really dangerous and scary. So guys, enough for this video, and of course you should consider to subscribe this channel, because if you do, then I would be able to demonstrate you that why you don't have to do a specific thing with the possibilities if you execute those things. So wait for our new videos and stay tuned, and goodbye.